We want to hit another topic that has emerged again and again in the news recently, socialism. Socialism, of course, has a century-long track record of creating misery and destroying countries, from Russia to Venezuela. But the ideology has proven impossible to kill, and it is flourishing, or appears to be flourishing, in the modern Democratic Party. Democrats as a whole now say they view socialism more favorably than capitalism. Politicians like Bernie Sanders and Cynthia Nixon proudly call themselves socialists. Maybe there's a little taint to socialism that turns people off.
I don't really think so.
Is this guy been funny at all since he took over?
Ideas that we have been talking about, almost without exceptions, are now ideas that are mainstream ideas that are supported by the vast majority of the American people.
Republicans are going to call us socialists no matter what we do.
Yeah.
So we might as well give them the real thing.
Give them the real thing. But what is the real thing? And what are
you're all
they
shaking
talking
your heads
about
like,
when they say
I've
socialists? David Azarad has thought a lot about this. He's director of the Dean Kenneth Simon Center for Principles and Politics.
Who's your junior high little talking point about this?
David, thank you for coming on. So all of us have watched kind of
campy, couched comments.
A growing number of ascendant Democratic politicians have embraced socialism. What are they saying when they say they're socialists? What does that mean?
I think you should look at the policies they support rather than the labels they use. And there you'll find that what they're calling socialism is basically just liberalism. They want more regulations on the private sectors, and they want bigger entitlements. So basically socialism has become a synonym for a more aggressive, self-confident brand of liberalism, and it's definitely spreading. But Marxist-Leninist socialism, the intermediary stage on the way to communism, that's completely dead in the US and enjoys almost no support. So I would tell my friends on the right not to panic, that this is not the birth of communism. What it is just is a renascent, more aggressive form of progressivism. No more Bill Clinton, the era of big government is over, but an assertive and demanding and self-confident form of liberalism.
It does seem like, though, somebody has failed. Maybe it was parents, maybe it was teachers, maybe it was both, in making the term socialism unacceptable. I mean, no one is espousing Nazism. That's been obviously discredited, and for good reason. Socialism, self-described socialists, murdered tens of millions of people in the last 100 years. Why is the word itself not more verboten?
But that's not really taught. And then the other thing to keep in mind is 2008. 2008 happens, and immediately the left reacted and said, this is capitalism. This is the legacy of Reagan. This is unregulated greed. It's the private sector running amok and trampling over the well-being of Americans. And then the pollsters come along and they give the American people a choice between capitalism, which to many on the left and to millennials means 2008, or socialism, which has come to mean kind of, we're all in this together, we take care of one another, or the government gives us free stuff. And people say, well, I sure as hell am not going to support capitalism, therefore I'm going to support socialism. I think it's more an indictment of our failure to properly teach history. And look, the fact also that words evolve and their meaning changes over time. And I think today, for a lot of people, socialism just means big government.
Libertarians and some conservatives never really reckoned with the deep resentment about the bank bailouts, I always thought. Did it ever occur to them that, people looked at that, if you're a non-economist like me, and you think, well, if my business fails, no one bails me out, but we're bailing out these billion-dollar banks? I mean, people kind of hated that, and why wouldn't they?
And I also think we didn't offer a simple counter-narrative. I mean, there have been very intelligent and profound explanations offered on the right by economists of what happened. But to put it bluntly, what's our talking point? And I've been in D.C. now for 10 years. I still don't know what it is. So that I think in the popular consciousness, 2008 was caused by deregulation and greed, which I think you and I both know is not the case. But we kind of lost that battle.
Inside the issue, especially the show Tucker Carlson tonight, the people who run the tech industry already know a lot more about you and your neighbors and your family than the East German Stasi ever could have dreamed. But they're always looking for more information. And for most people, the smartphone is the way they get it. Your phone doesn't just track where you go, though it does do that. It can also listen in on your conversations, your in-person conversations, and use them to decide which ads you see online. Brett Larson hosts Fox News Headlines 24/7 on Sirius XM Radio. He frequently investigates tech stories for us. So, Brett Larson, I know this can't be true because We've suspected this for a long time, but the industry has denied it repeatedly.
Right.
But you're saying it is real?
They have denied, but every time someone sits down and researches it, it seems it is actually happening. That the conversations that you're having in front of your smartphones are being listened to, and then advertisements appropriate to the conversations you had will pop up the next time you go online.
Wait, can I just interrupt you just to make sure I have this right? So this is not when you're speaking to Siri, not when you're talking to the phone, but when your phone is sitting on a table at a restaurant in your
like
home.
right here,
and you don't
hearing me.
Even now, but how is that legal?
You know, here's the thing. This is where, and when we had Mark Zuckerberg in Congress said over and over these end-user agreements that we all just kind of click through and we don't pay attention. For what we know, it could be buried in there, but it could be buried in there in such a way that you don't really understand what they're saying. When you open an app for the first time, when you download the Facebook app, for example, and you open it for the first time, it may say, Facebook app would like access to your camera and your microphone. And logically, you're going to think, oh, it's because I want to put pictures on Facebook directly from the app. But buried in that license agreement, it may say flat out, and you know, we're listening to the things going on around you when you post your photos, so that we can take the mood of the room, or so that you're not posting a silent movie, basically. But this reporter at Vice Media did the same thing, and he did it the same way. All of us have heard this story over and over, these anecdotal things of like, you know, I was talking about wanting to go to Japan, and the next thing I know, I'm in front of my computer and there's all these ads for cheap flights to Japan. And most of us dismiss it, like there's no way that could be happening. Zuckerberg's in Congress, he says there's no way we're not listening to you. But other researchers have found that a lot of these apps are actually listening to us, and they're also paying attention to how we interact with the app. Or, hey Siri, which if I say, my phone's gonna, now there it goes. It's what can I help you with? But in order for my phone to hear me say that, it's got to be listening to me all the time. So it's a matter of what other apps are also listening and what they're called trigger words to get them to start paying attention. For all we know, the Facebook app trigger is, I'm thinking about.
Yeah, where does the data stream go in terms of the cloud? You know?
Yeah, but I guess that's the point we don't know.
That's the problem with cloud
Congress
computing,
banned
blockchain,
lawn darts and clove cigarettes because they were a danger to the public.
Bad
They're
stuff
doing
on the
nothing about
horizon.
this because they're pathetic in the pocket of these companies. But let me ask, where does this data go? They have all your conversations, all your intimate conversations. What do they do with it?
They take it back, they process it, and they sell you advertisements. That's, you know, when we did that investigation into Google and tracking your location, it's really about, they want to know where you go, they want to know your routine, because then they have a more valuable sell to an advertiser. You're not just going to a fast food restaurant and saying, we're going to give you 1,000 customers. You're going to a fast food restaurant and saying, we're going to give you 100 customers that absolutely walk past your store every day, and 10 of them walk in once a week, and we know this for a fact. Now they can go a step further and say, of those 10 that we know walk into your store, one of them is actually talking in the morning about how he wants to get breakfast at your particular establishment, and they have all this data.
Why would any sane person ever bring a smartphone into a bedroom? Seriously.
I know. It's a valid question, and when you think about it, we've got baby cams, pet cams, all these things in our homes connected to the internet. We don't know where that's going. So my advice would be, turn the phone off if you're bringing it in the bedroom, because it is probably listening to you. And I'm not trying to sound alarmist. I'm just trying to be realistic.
Well, you're the opposite of an alarmist. I'm alarmed.